When I was growing up, there was no major difference between the richer kids and the poor kids. The only time you could tell the difference between the rich and the poor kids was at a train station. There was the kids who could be whatever age they wanted when they were getting on a train. And there was the kids who get told what age they are when they're getting on a train. I'd arrive up with my dad going, "What age am I today, Dad?" 8. 8 again, brilliant. Just as well I shaved this morning, so always.
Yeah, we didn't really do it like completely with local comedy in mind, because a lot of the acts we're bringing would be acts that you'd see on the circuit all around the country. Last night we had Fred Cook here, and we've had Edwin Salmon and John Cleary, Danny O'Brien, a few more like that. So like we do have an element of open mic where we have a slot that we hope that somebody local will fill that slot, do 5 minutes every month. And so far we've had a little bit of uptake on that. So the more the better, like the more we can get local people to just try. Like everyone's got 5 minutes of comedy, surely everyone's got one funny story that they could go up and tell. So we're trying to encourage that part of it, but we're also trying to balance that with, putting on a really good night and just getting the best acts in the country. Like there's no reason why the comedy club in Castlebar shouldn't have the same acts as the Laughterland in Dublin or the International Bar in Dublin or whatever it is. So that's what we're aiming to do.
Don't get me wrong, it's not that I don't trust people who wear tracksuits all the time. It's just that I don't trust people who look like they're always ready to run. Or the best one once said to me, "I'm not trying to be smart." No shit.
No, I had a little bit of company when I joined it. This guy from Castlebar called Cian McGargle, he was doing it already. So I would have been friendly with him first. I know lads from Ballina. There's Bob Hennigan runs a club with Johnny Graham in Galway. He's from Ballina. And the Galway crew, there's a really strong club scene in Galway now. Steve Bennett and Kevin Healy from the Russian Dove have done really good stuff there. And the club scene in Galway is really strong. So we're kind of benefiting from that here as well, because in the whole west of Ireland now seems to have as strong a comedy scene as anywhere. Like it's easier as a comedian to keep busy in Dublin because there's gigs every night of the week, whereas we've a monthly here. The lads have weeklies in Galway. So it's still not every night of the week, but it's getting there. And there's an audience for at least a monthly or a bi-monthly gig.
Somebody had actually written, "Who's the greatest black man of all time? Nelson Mandela or Michael Jackson?" Mandela was in jail longer than Jackson was black.
I tried one before, and I thought, right, if nobody laughs, I'll just go home and call it quits. And then I thought, right, if it goes all right, I'll do another. If that goes all right, I'll do another. And gradually you get a little bit more confident that, it's not going to be that disastrous. Because when I was younger, I thought I'd never do it. I thought there's no point even thinking about it. I wouldn't have the confidence to do it. But after doing one, maybe, I don't know if people say the second parachute jump is easier than the first, but I imagine it's something similar.
Fair play for coming in tonight. I know why there's less Irish in as well, because we do this thing in November. Irish people tend to go off the drink for November. I call it the Irish Ramadan.
I was starting I just did it to see if I could, to see if I wouldn't die, and I didn't die. But no, the aim wasn't to make a living out of it or anything like that. And even still, there's myself and a lot of lads at my level that we're still a little bit off calling ourselves 100% professional stand-up comedians. Everyone tries to keep a little bit of some other sort of income going on the side. But no, so far it's been going alright, and you never know, in a few years it could end up being your number one income. And hopefully all the lads that I know at my level will be doing the exact same thing, because there's a really nice scene now. There's nice people who help each other out, and there's a nice community to it at the moment. So it would be nice if this scene became the next kind of names that you watch. Would be really. It was an idea that I did have an idea in the back of my head to do a club in Mayo, but I mean you kind of have to establish yourself a little bit on the scene first, just to gain the trust from the other acts who you're asking to drive for 3 hours to come and do your show. So you do need a little bit of trust there, and they need to know that it's going to be hosted properly, it's going to be in a good room, you know, like the lads at Bridge Street have done an amazing job on the building, and the room looks good, and all the comedians who come in know that they're in safe hands because they see a sound man, they see a doorman, they see there's lights and a stage and all of that, you know, so they actually feel like comfortable once they come in. Whereas if I started off trying to run a comedy club with, you know, my 5 minutes of material, you know, 5 years ago, I don't think I would have been able to ask people to come and do the show. Yeah, that's it. I mean, like, there's people now who are huge because of what they do online, and solely because of what they do online. And you kind of have to, you can't ignore it. You kind of have to be firing on all cylinders, you know. People, if people like you at a gig, they'll ask you what your Instagram handle is. And if there's no point in you saying, I don't believe in all that stuff. You have to be putting out photos on Instagram or putting out funny tweets, because you don't know where you're going to gather your audience from. And eventually you put on a show in a certain town and people come. And someone will say, I saw you here 2 years ago. Someone else will say, I follow you on Twitter. So you don't, you know, there's no point in cutting off one of the supplies to your ticket sales. You as well have to try and keep all the platforms going. But I think it's a good thing, you know, because the days are probably gone when you're just solely living on your appearances around the country, because unless you've got a little bit of TV exposure, then that's a tough graft, you know, and you kind of have to make it as easy as possible for people to find you. If they're willing to type your name into Google or something, then, you know, at least meet them halfway and give them a couple of results. I found that the comedians I really liked and really thought were amazing were the ones that turned me off doing comedy, because I would watch them and say, well, I could never do that. I'm not able to do that. And then the comedians that I didn't like that much, I would watch and go, maybe I can do it. So, like, I'd watch it all, like, when it comes to styles, I like everything from, like, George Carlin and Bill Hicks to Tim Vine, who just tells silly one-liners. I like it all in between. I think there's scope there. There's no point in me saying I want to be that guy who shouts at the audience, or, you know, I don't think you really decide your style. It's not a good idea to decide your style, because when you get up on stage, you might think, I'm going to tell a certain type of jokes about certain subjects. But after a couple of years, you might realise that the way you tell a joke and the way you look all leads to this type of material or this type of material, and you go, well, that's, you know, the audience decided that they will laugh at that from me more than they'll laugh at this from me. So you kind of let yourself get moulded a bit by by the gigs that you do and by the stages that you end up on. You kind of, if you can flow with when you do get laughs and when you don't, and you can adapt, then your style will kind of craft itself after a while. I think you should really enjoy the first 2 years at least, and graft really hard and do every gig. Like, you'll do gigs in the back end of nowhere that will make a funny story for the future that you will hope to never ever do again, but it will be a learning experience. And also, I think you should throw out every type of material. If you go up and you spend your first 2 years saying, I give out about religion, or I'm a political comedian, then you're never going to find out if you're going to be good at one-liners or whatever it was, because there's no point in having a preconceived notion of what you're going to sound like or how you're going to come across. So yeah, I would say have fun with the first couple of years, do every gig under the sun, whether you get paid for it or not, and enjoy trying out lots of different material, lots of different styles of delivery, and you'll bounce onto something that you go, yeah, that really works. People seem to respond to my face and my voice telling that type of joke, and then start crafting that, and then the next few years will be you trying to hone that and make that into something, some sort of a, don't really like to use the word product, but something that's attainable for people when they go, what kind of comedy do you like? Well, I like this girl, or I like this guy because I like the way they deliver the lines. So yeah, I would just enjoy it and wouldn't worry about preconceived notions of how you're going to come across. Yeah, I think when you gig in Dublin, there's a lot more tourists, so you find that you kind of have to be a bit more generic with your material. Like, I can't talk about Indicani, you know, they're not going to know a lot of the phrases and stuff like that we'd have, and not just in the west of Ireland, but in Ireland, because you're talking to rooms full of Spanish, Italian, American. So you do have to keep it a bit more generic, but I think that helps a lot, because then it means you can travel. If you can do gigs in Europe or in America, then it's kind of good for your profile, and if you've got the material to do that, it's better than being a comedian who can, you know, who only uses the immediate surroundings, I think. But I think there's a balance. You can find a balance. You can talk about things that happen with you, your family, your surroundings, that sometimes a German will come up to you and say, yeah, that happens to us as well. So, you know, I think it's your starting point. You do start from where you grew up and how you got on with your friends and family and stuff like that, and then you just kind of broaden it as you go. It's been brilliant here. Every gig so far has been sold out. We've done 5 gigs. The audiences have been great. Like, people have been coming. People are happy to just sit and listen. You know, it's not like you're going to get a lot of hecklers or people who are on stag parties or anything like that. It's people who, you know, have worked all week and got a babysitter. This is the night out they've decided to pick. Maybe gone for food beforehand or something, and then come into the gig. So it's a really nice, attentive type audience, and the comedians love that, because sometimes some gigs can be a battle around the country, and you're trying to, you know, be louder than the loudest guy at the back of the room, and sometimes it can just be a bit like babysitting for the first 5 minutes. But no, this is a joy, and people have been saying it. The comedians who gigged here have been saying it as they left. They're excited to come back as soon as possible.